Hello, I'm Chief Master Sergeant Herbert Welday. I retired from the Air Force in 2012 with 29 years of service. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the Air Mobility Command Museum at Dover Air Force Base. This year they will be celebrating their 30th anniversary in September 2016.
My name is Senior Airman Zachary Casisia, and I'm originally from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I've been stationed here at Dover Air Force Base since November 2013, so just roughly over 2.5 years. I am assigned to the 436 Airlift Wing Public Affairs Office as a photojournalist. Here at the base we have the Air Mobility Command Museum, which houses a lot of examples of Air Force, airlift, and air refueling aircraft and their capabilities. I love museums, so I jump at every opportunity to take photos and write stories about what's going on at the museum. The first story I did at the museum was just a general overview and brief history on the museum. It just told us what the museum had to offer, not only to the airmen here on base, but also the general public. A few months after that was probably my most favorite story I did at the museum, called Jumping into History. That one focused on a C-47 that's located at the museum and its history. A Mr. George Schenkel, he was a 82nd Airborne paratrooper during World War II, a D-Day veteran. He jumped out of that very aircraft that's located at the museum. So he came, visited the aircraft, the one that he sat in and jumped out of over Normandy in 1944. I got some really great photos, and I wrote a really great story about it. Most notably, one of my photos was of him sitting in his very paratrooper seat in that aircraft, surrounded by reenactors who portrayed 82nd Airborne veterans during the 82nd Airborne troops during the war. That photo I took, it was submitted in a media contest, and it came in first place at the Air Mobility Command level for portrait personality photography, and in second place at the Air Force level in that same category. It was a great experience, and it's always great to see those older veterans come back and retell their stories. And just a few months ago in November, I actually got to travel to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with the museum. Myself, Mr. Leister, the museum director, and another volunteer teamed up with the 3rd Airlift Squadron in a C-17 Globemaster III aircraft, a modern aircraft. We flew it up to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and we picked up an L-2 Grasshopper. This aircraft was used during World War II as a trainer for pilots and also as a surveillance aircraft. We picked up that aircraft. It was palletized, loaded it onto the C-17, and brought it back here to Dover to be displayed at the museum. It's currently undergoing restoration at the moment and will soon be ready for public viewing. As a photojournalist for the Air Force, I do numerous things. I take photos, obviously. I write stories of all sorts. I handle the social media for the base, and I interact with the local media, newspapers, TV stations, radio, etc. The reason why I do a lot at the museum is because I love museums. I am currently working on a Master's in Museum Studies degree from Johns Hopkins University. Now, how did I get involved with that? So, when I was working on my undergraduate degree at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, my degree was in history, and I jumped at any opportunity I could to work as an intern at several museums in the surrounding area. Most notably, the Fort Ligonier Museum in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Now Fort Ligonier is a reconstructed British fort from the French Indian War, an old wooden stockade fort, 18th century, completely restored. And every day at work, I would get there, I would dress up as a British redcoat, and I would give tours to school-age children who were on their field trip. I would tell them why the fort was important, a little bit about its history, how it was built, some of the events that went on there. From there, that's when I realized that I loved museums, and I wanted to work in museums. But the thing is, I knew I needed a higher education level to be able to accomplish this. A bachelor's degree in that career field wasn't really enough. I knew I needed at least a master's. So to get this master's degree, the Air Force came into light. So I joined the Air Force, and once all my training that they required of me was complete and I was allowed to start taking classes, I started applying, and I was accepted at Johns Hopkins. And with tuition assistance and the GI Bill, I'm able to afford and pay for those classes that I'm taking today. Probably one of the most solemn things I've done so far in the Air Force is I've been a photographer for the dignified transfers that occur here at Dover when fallen service members are returned to the United States through the Port Mortuary here at Dover. I'm one of the photographers who take the photographs of their remains being transported off the aircraft to transfer vehicles to be taken to the mortuary.
Can you kind of expound upon how that makes you feel, or what kind of professionalism it takes, or what kind of emotions you go through when you do the DTs?
It's being at a DT. It's very humbling because during a normal day, we're pretty lighthearted. We have a good feeling about what's going on today. But then when you get sent out to a dignified transfer, like everybody's mood instantly changes. It's like everybody knows why they're there, what they're there for. It's a no-fail mission, so I have to be able to take those photographs. I can't, I accidentally exposed wrong, I wasn't focused properly, let's redo it. There is no second choice, no second option for it. Because those photos, some of them are released to the public if it's the family's wishes, but the rest of them, they go on a disc to that service member's families for them to have forever, and those were my photographs. So that weighs heavily on me to make sure that those photographs that I take are the best that I can possibly produce. They're the best composed, they're the best exposed for, because that's what that family is going to remember that moment for the rest of their lives.